looking at Mary. It's my team. Sorry. Brilliant. Just like one of the three of us as well. I love that one though.
You just want to hold on.
That's right.
Anywhere? You sure?
I'll send it.
I don't think they're that nice, so. They're the kind of sweets that last about 10 years.
They've not got to make it tacky.
Not yet. Won't be long.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I felt like a school teacher for a second then. Yeah, I'm not going to do a register, you're okay. Okay. Well, good morning. For those of you that have been to these before, you know it's the first time we've been able to host one of these in person for over 18 months, and we did a couple of online versions, didn't we? We had a handful of people in the room for one and completely virtual for the other one, so that was exciting. Handful of speakers up here talking to an empty room, yeah? Which I'll tell you takes no more effort than actually talking to all of you. And for those of you that have joined us more recently, great to see you, and hopefully you'll find this informative as we spend the next hour or so just updating you on what we've been doing over the last 6 months or so. And just before we start, I want to just cover off a couple of points. Last month was the second month unannounced that we made a profit, and that's so we've gone 15-16 months of making loss after loss after loss, and for 2 months unannounced we made a profit. We're on track again to make a profit this month. A couple of months over the winter we expect that we'll still lose some money, but the year will end at a loss of around 1.3 million. So whilst our recovery is going really, really well, whilst we said we've turned the corner, you see the all parts of the business open for the first 10 months. They went to Woodton's open a few weeks ago, so we're actually open out, which is great to see, but we will still carry losses as we go through the winter into next year, which is okay. We've got them under control, but as we try through all the way through this crisis, we've told you the truth. We've told you the good things, told you the bad things. So we're definitely on the road to recovery, but we're not out of the woods yet. So as we go through the winter, we know we're still going to have a couple of bumps. We're going to have to stick together, watch our costs, and work hard to come out the other side. Okay, there's lots coming up today. I've got a handful of speakers with us. So first of all, I'm going to cover off an update on where we are as a business and what we're doing for sustainability. Richard's then cover off sales and the road to recovery. So we all say no pressure on Richard, but if he can't sell, then we're all doomed. So Richard, if you can give confidence to the rest of the room that you've actually got a future for us all, that would be very kind. Refurbishment of the Waterfront Hotel, so Lyndon's going to cover off that. There's some really exciting plans for the hotel coming up, and I'll explain not just what we're doing, but why we're doing it and why we're doing it now. The Oakley or the Salix, depending on what we're calling it today, so Simon will give a little bit more context as to that. And then Catherine will give us an update all about people after we're doing for you as a team. So our biggest priorities right now, I'm going to go through 3 or 4 real big priorities. The first one is strengthening the team. I just want to put across, I know that we're short-staffed. I know that we're really struggling in some areas. I know that we've got agency team coming in where we can't help out, and as much as we say thank you, they're doing a great job to the best of their abilities. They don't know everything the same as the rest of the team in that department. They have to be trained and brought up to speed, and often the total number that we want don't turn up, and we're doing everything we possibly can. There's so many people have left the country over the last few years. We're in this situation where there's this record employment, record vacancies out there trying to fill. So Catherine will cover off that in detail detail, but I just thought it was important that you hear it from me. I understand this is a challenge, and trust me, we're doing absolutely everything we can to try and resolve it. What we don't want to do is be short-staffed in departments, having people under too much stress and pressure, and then people say, why do I want to work for this company? They don't care, they do nothing about it. We do care, we're doing our best, but it is a real crisis at the moment. As we go through the winter, it's still in my hunch, I suspect things will start to ease. They'll get back to where they were, but I think things will start to ease. We've got lots of people, there's still over 1 million people on furlough. In this company, there's still 1 million people on furlough. What will happen with them? Which businesses won't survive? Which businesses will put people back into the marketplace? So things will start to change, but it's not going to be a quick fix. But we are doing everything we possibly can. The other thing that we do is we're using automation to help where we can. We've been working on this, as you know, for a few years now. For those who've been to a few of these, you've heard me talk about the different automation projects we've been working on. So what I like to do is, if you go to side, there's a little piece of paper on your desks. And just while my AD and IT colleagues do something very technical, and you can pick the paper up on your chairs, go to slide now and put the code in that's there.
Has everyone got the code?
Yeah, everyone got the code that's on the screen? We're going to click on to the next one.
Can you answer questions?
There we go. Okay, has everyone finished clicking? The people at the front, that's the senior management team, that seem to be struggling with this very simple instruction. Go to the website and click the buttons before you. Okay, just while you finish that, what I wanted to explain is that the reason we've been talking about automation for the last few years is that we've got this combination of rising costs of labour and the lack of supply of labour in the market. What we're trying to do is make your roles as interesting as we can. And I've said this many times over, we've been using technology for hundreds of years. Technology has been getting better and better and better. If we said to Paul now, Paul, I've got a great idea, we're going to buy you a push-along, a manual mower, and you're going to do the meadow with it, I think you'd have something to say about it. You may say, well, I need another 20 team members to help me do that. So we don't. We have big ride-on mowers, and the grounds team get involved to help. So we use technology along, but what we've been doing over the last few years is looked at automation technology, saying, what can we do to make our roles more fulfilling, to take some of the pressure and the burden off you, and particularly now when we're struggling for team, what can we do that actually some of the process jobs that can be done by technology, that means that the great team members we've got can be giving customer service, looking after people, doing the jobs that need to be done by a person. So you've got a list there, all the different ones that you've seen we've worked on. I just want to talk about a couple of them. We went cashless last year. You think that automation, so we've gone cashless, so we're now not got a manual process in there. As before, we used to have to count the cash every night. So those who worked in restaurants, bars, spas, etc., had to count the cash, so we had to pay someone to count the cash. Then we used to have to process that within the accounts department, so we had someone that just dealt with that job. Then we had to pay security card to take the money to the bank for us. That was about £8,000 a year. Then the bank, because they're always our friends, they said, thank you for giving us all this cash, we're going to charge you now for putting your money in the bank. They charge us a percentage of the money you put in, because we're a business, so that's what they do, they charge us. So this costs us tens of thousands of pounds a year, just to do the cash. But it also put pressure on the team. The teams are finishing later now because they have to deal with all the cash. So when we look at these processes, they're not all big, sexy robots. We're still trying to find a big, sexy robot. Deep enough to be that sexy. We just want a robot that'll carry the food from the kitchen in the hotel to the waterfront. And this seems to be the biggest challenge I've come across in my life. 3 years, and we still can't find a robot that can do that straight journey. I've told you before, we've got the one that kept getting lost, that ended up in the food and beverage manager's office, so we thought he'd become a manager, not use a robot. And we had the one that was too slow, the one that was too fast, and we're still looking for Goldilocks, we're still looking for the robot that's just right, and that saves at least £50,000 a year. But more importantly, it means the team that do that can be giving customer service. Or it means the team that are working will have another 1 or 2 team members helping them instead of struggling. So, but it doesn't have to be all this. It can be the more straightforward things. We've just upgraded some of the software in accounts and in food and beverage. And 2 of our colleagues have just come back to work from maternity and wanted, can we work part-time? And with the technology, we're able to say yes. Because the technology now picks up a couple of days a week's worth of the work, so we're satisfied with our team, provided flexible working, and the technology is doing that process work that we just have to have someone doing. So technology is having lots of benefit to us. And in the meetings office, we now have an online booking tool for small meetings. Christine gave me a statistic that is etched into my mind. You know, when I finally meet my maker, I'll still remember this statistic. 2 years ago, 42% of every conference that we serve, 42% of all the conferences we served, brought us 2.4% of the revenue. 42% was 2 and a bit % of the revenue, because these were lots and lots and lots and lots of bookings for 3, 4, 5 people. So they were spending £100, £150, and they were going, hello, what an inquiry, that's great. Well, of course, an inquiry, come and have a show round. Oh, we'll send you a contract. Oh, you send that contract back, we chase it. We don't do that for a bedroom. We're going to book a bedroom. We go, go online. Put the phone down. Okay. You want to spend £100 with me? You're not spending enough to speak to someone.
Don't
That's why I'm back for the res office. There's a key code on the door because I did it and the customer complained. Then they have to speak to the MD when I laughed at them and said it was me or went wrong. So, but we've had to look at these things and say, what we need is our outstandingly talented team in the meetings office dealing with conferences. 3 people is not a conference, is it? Yeah? I have coffee with more than 3 people in a day. I don't call that a conference. I call it a job. Yeah? So we've put this technology that now those small bookings are dealt with through technology. So there's just some of the ones we can remember on the screen, and it's really hard to say how much have we spent on this, because take the account software I just mentioned. We had account software before. Now we've got new account software. It costs a bit more money, but it's a bit extra. But we've spent at least £500,000 on technology in the last few years that's genuinely making a difference. We've talked quite a lot about the robotic hoovers. We used to have an evening at PA Cleaner over at Woodlands. We don't now have that role, but we struggled to fill that role because it was nights, it was weekends, it was anti-social hours. You can't get until the conferences are gone. Sometimes they don't finish till gone midnight. So all these technologies are really helping, and we're going to keep on this quest to keep adding in to make everyone's service conditions better and to help support the departments. Okay. So biggest priorities. So strengthening the team, just cover it off. Securing business for the end of this year and into 2022. Well, I better leave that one to Richard Hunter, so we'll talk about that in a second. And then keeping it simple to stay strong. So we've been looking at how do we simplify this business? How do we not do all the complicated things we used to do? I think everyone knows now we don't take wedding bookings. We've got 1 or 2 left in the system. We don't take wedding bookings. You think, take a wedding, all that money. You go, well, on a Saturday, somebody spends £15,000 on a wedding with us, sounding quite good. And then you say, okay, well, the hotel's full, and if the Woodlands or Wills are open, they tend to be full. So the chefs are busy, the spa's full, and the waterfronts are full. So we have to get extra chefs, and we have to get extra waiters out, unedible food and beverage, and the biggest day of their life, okay, so that's quite important, we get it right. So a master of ceremonies, and a red carpet, and a licence. And then Louisa speaks up, and she goes, you know what, we're going to have to market these weddings. You want to get weddings, Steve? We did a marketing campaign, and that's going to cost you at least £20,000. I get noticed with quite a lot when Louisa speaks, because there's always these big figures. And you say, why are we complicating our business? We're already busy, we're already full, and what we make on that, if we were lucky, £1,000 to £2,000. Why would we do that? So we're simplifying our business where we can. But in order to do that, we've got 3 main headings that we're doing. Securing a long-term contract. We spoke about this for lots, so we all know we have Diagram, our long-term contract. And for those of you that are closest to it up at the Willows, if you look at the money that the 5 brands spend with us, and we give them a really keen price. So it's good value for both of us. We get a great contract, they get really good value back. They have a keen price, we give them outstanding service, and they keep signing new contracts, saying it's amazing. We used to do this ourselves. Well, before we came to it, we did it ourselves for a little bit. It was terrible, because we're amazing at training, we're terrible at running a venue. So they get us to do it, so there's a nice long-term contract, but we know what we're doing every day. We have to keep learning, we have to keep refining that new sale. That contract signs for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and we serve it well. So it helps simplify our business, and it also gives us base business. Apart from pandemics, when there's no base business, it gives us base business that every month of the year we've got that business to rely on. Embedding our purpose and values. So we spoke about this last summer. If you weren't here last summer, you can see it for the first time. So our purpose, we enable businesses and people to flourish. We deliberately don't say, well, we run conference centres, restaurants and bars, because our business is enabling businesses and people to flourish. We started a new product, the team will talk to you later, this co-working product. But we didn't do that when we wrote this. So if we'd have said we have a restaurant, a bar and a spa, that's what we do. Our purpose is to be out of date already. So it's deliberately generic, but that's what we focus on. And we do that by doing the right thing, even when no one's looking. Yeah, and that applies to every single person. These are all highly actionable. So, can you do the right thing even when no one's looking? On my way over this morning, I was in One Life's car park. There's a can on the floor. I picked it up, turned it upside down, managed to get Coors Light right over my shoes, which I wasn't best impressed with. I threw it in the skip. No one knew. Didn't have to do it. Is it my job? I'm managing director. I don't pick up cans. Yeah. You think I could do that? No one's looking. Do the right thing even when no one's looking. It has to be something big and clever. It's just the smallest little actions. But it also means that we treat our customers with respect. And we were challenged on this last year. When the pandemic was at its height, when we were closed, people were asking us. There were days when people were saying, we shouldn't have to pay this. We don't want to pay for that reason. And some of them went, all right, we're not giving you the service. Yeah? We've got a contract. We might technically get away with some of this, but we knew in here, getting away with it wasn't the right thing. So what we had to do was do the right thing. Support, respect and trust each other as we're stronger together. If we don't support, respect and trust each other, we've got nothing. And I won't bore you talking about why some companies are successful, why some sports teams are successful. If you're interested in that, there's a trillion books on the internet you can read or listen to. But you can get a football team that's not as good on paper as another one, and they'll win the league if they're a team. Yeah, the other one may be the star-studded cast, but if they're not playing together, they're not behind the manager, if they've not got that one, come on, we're in this together, you'll never be successful. So that's why that's so important. Life's hard enough. Customers give us a hard time sometimes, so the least we can do is support, trust and respect each other. Treat every penny as though it's your own. I don't think that's a big ask. Yeah? At home, if you got a bill in for £100 and you didn't think it was due, you think, I don't know if I owe this £100, you'd pick up the phone, you'd email the company, wouldn't you? You wouldn't pay it. Why in work would you knock something over and break it? Not pay care attention. It might cost us £500 to fix it. Well, it's work. Treat every penny as though it's your own. So we're all custodians, aren't we? The money doesn't belong to us. We're here to do a job, to do a really good job, to work to high standards, to delight our customers, to give ourselves a great working environment, and we need to provide a profit. And I've said before, profit's not a dirty word. With no profit, with no future as a business. We have to keep investing in the assets to give us all a future. So we've got to make a profit, a fair profit, but treating every penny as though it's your own. Not just throwing a half-full rubbish bag in the bin, making sure it's full. It might sound ridiculous and petty, but all the things at home I don't think you're doing. I did it. I get in trouble off Mrs. J, so I'm not that brave. So every penny as though it's your own, and be bold but not reckless. I'm really proud to work with this company because I think we're bold. When we go out to various meetings, when people come here to see us, we're in all different associations, all different trade bodies, and the amount of confidence we get on the things that we do. Some we're going to talk about today, that we're bold, but there comes a point where boldness is recklessness. And you've gone too far, so we say, we don't need to be reckless, but we want people to be bold and say, what's the right thing to do? I think we were quite bold last year when we did the Willows. We'd signed contracts, we'd already started in the January, February, the pandemic struck, and we could have got out at that point, we'd have lost some money, would have gone up, but I thought we were bold. We said, no, we're okay, we know we've got cash in the business, we know we can afford to get through this, we can get that venue refurbished, so when we reopen, we'll be ahead of the competition. And Richard will attest, that's paid off already with some of the fabulous business that we've won. So that's what I mean by being bold. Okay, and the last one, challenging overcomplicated systems and procedures. So this is something for everyone, and challenge is positive. So when I say challenge, I'm talking about having an argument with someone, or being rude, fronting up to them. You front to me, I'll run off and hide. But we're doing that. But challenging things. So during the pandemic, Christine found herself doing the job of her team. So she had to take a couple of inquiries. When we were doing the NHS business, so she took one of these inquiries, and she then got to put this into the process system that she picked and chose. And she wrote the procedures for. Said to her team, you will do this, and if you don't do this, you'll suffer the wrath of the Gomez, right? So they said, we're not going to suffer the wrath of the Gomez. We're going to do exactly what she said. So they start to do it. She does it herself, and she says, they put the same information in 3 times, in 3 different sections. I've changed the procedure. So what we're saying is challenge. Ask the question, why are we doing this? There could be a good reason. Often there is. Often that what we all know is the piece of the job that we do, we don't know the next bit, we don't know the other department it goes to and why we need that. So there may be a lot of times you challenge and ask and they turn around and say, oh no, there is good reason for that. That's okay. But you'll never ever get talked down to, put down, shouted at, told you for challenging. We want you to challenge and question these processes and procedures. And with the refurbishment at Willows, Sam and I were talking about what's the new procedure going to be, and now there's water inside and there's pots of cutlery on the table. We used to get the cutlery and lay at the table and get the napkin and get the water glass and get the jugs of ice water and put them there, and then the customers went, we cleared all the spare ones away, and then we did it all again at lunch, did it all again at dinner, did it all again next day. I said, do we need to do that? Why can't we just put it at the side and help ourselves? It's taken hours a day of now not doing something, and it's made the jobs more enjoyable because it's quite a boring job because I've been a waiter, I don't lay on the table every day. Instead the team can now look after the customers, they can smile and talk to them. So these don't have to be big, clever, fancy things, but if you notice something that you think, is that efficient, raise it, speak to your line manager and just question that procedure. Okay. And then the final one is continue our sustainability credentials, which I'm going to move on to now. We've spoken a lot about. Okay, so we've got 3 awards for our sustainability credentials. We've just been upgraded to Platinum for EcoSmart, and their new top award. We got a gold for green tourism and gold for IX. So these 3 independent bodies are saying you do a good job for this. It's quite nice of them. And these are some of the things we've done. So zero to landfill for the last 6 years. And the company we use now, more of the waste is recycled. So then we've spoken a few times, said, well, we put it all in that bin, we have to separate it. Here it was in one bin. At the other end, they separate it all out. And none of it goes to landfill, and they recycle more than all the other companies in the UK, the company we have a contract with. Our electric's now from renewable sources, so we've had a new contract about 18 months ago, and it's all green electric that we buy now. Single-use plastics reduced by over 40%. We went back to 2019. We've not been cute here and gone, well, we didn't buy it. No, because we were closed. Yeah, we reduced it by 40%. No, we genuinely have reduced it by 40%. We looked at the things we buy, the plastic straws, the plastic wrappers, etc. Papers now all from recycled carbon-neutral sources, and we've massively reduced the amount that we print. Some of that was forced upon us with the way we changed work, but we've adapted to it now, and not for I'm working from a screen here instead of from printing it out. You know, we've started to adapt. We've started to do it in the way that we work, and we've reduced the number of chemicals we use and how we use them as we've changed the contract. Okay. We've targeted ourselves to reduce the amount of carbon we produce by 50%. Great news, we've already done that. Now we're buying green electric, we've already reduced it by over 50%. But I said, come on, that's ridiculous. That's what they call greenwashing. We've not actually done anything, we just signed a new contract with someone else. So we want to really reduce the amount of carbon that we produce by 50%, and not by being clever signing new contracts. So we're looking at everything. One of the things that we've been working on, which is quite boring but quite appropriate, is up in the ceilings in these rooms. We have a legal obligation to put fresh air into a room and to take dirty air out. Not air conditioning, not making it hot and cold, fresh air in, dirty air out. And in a standard system, that's exactly what happens. So in the winter, you get your air conditioning heating on, it's nice in here, 22, 23 degrees, and the fresh air coming in is 5 degrees. So if you sat by the bed, it's pretty cold. Yeah? If you sat over there, you've got the whirlwind of all the hot air being sucked out. So we're changing our systems to what they call heat recovery. So what happens is, as it brings the fresh air in, it passes over a pipe and heats it up by using the heat from the air that's going out. So it keeps it separate, so it's not contaminated with dirty air. It filters it, brings fresh air in, heats it up. And then the air conditioning's job is to adjust the temperature by 3 or 4 degrees. That's all air conditioning is supposed to do. AC, you shouldn't take it from 5 to 25, it should adjust it by 3 or 4. You should be bringing the air in at the right temperature. And it massively reduces the amount of energy we use. Something like a 90% reduction in energy we use, because you've got the room at the right temperature, and every few seconds you're throwing it out and bringing in all that icy and cold air in, or in the summer, vice versa. So we're doing that, we're fitting that in the buildings. One of the big advantages to doing it now is, yes, great for our green credentials, but also with COVID and the common cold, norovirus, flu, it filters the air coming in, it sucks the dirty air out, and when you turn your air conditioning on, it's on automatically. With the older systems, you have to turn them on separately. Lots of clients don't know that, and therefore don't turn them on. So it helps us from a quality of air point of view as well. And we're currently working on a few projects. We've got consultants helping us saying how do we take this site and make it sustainable in the years to come. So we're looking at floating solar panels. So instead of putting solar panels on land that you think, well, we could use that for team building or we could build a building on there, can we put solar panels onto some of the lakes where they're out of sight so that can provide energy? Wind turbines, can we put a couple of wind turbines onto the golf course? You think that dangerous? People hit balls. We've got pylons already. It can't be any worse than pylons. So the experts have said it's okay. They say it's fine. So we're looking at where would they go? And we have permission for a water source heat pump. So this is a great big thing that would live in the lake. 2 pipes come out and they go around the site and that provide all the heat and cooling into the buildings. So if you understand how a fridge works, so a fridge takes the air within your house and it has a gas within it and it makes that air colder. And you can do that in reverse and make heat. So you say that the lake's cold, how can that produce heat? Well, the lake's not cold because it's not freezing, is it? Yeah? So even though it's cool compared to the temperature we want to be at, these F gases, the refrigerant gases, can produce this hot and cold from using that lake. So we've got the push button. It's a bit complicated, that one, because you have to dig up the site and you have to have grants to make it work. But we've got permission for that. We're working on the other 2. So lots of sustainability things still going on. Some of the easier to do things that we're working on, and some of the bigger projects that take years to work on, but we are working on. And just before I finish, I just wanted to say thank you. It was National Hospitality Day on Sunday. If you don't know that, then you've not read your emails, and Catherine and I have worked with you later, so you should have been inundated with emails about this. But I just want to say thank you all. I know it's a really tough industry, and certainly this last couple of years have taught us that, haven't they, with the challenges have been thrown a curveball, having to close, and having to deal with having to keep the business going, dealing with the bookings we had in, and now trying to reopen and this staffing crisis. I think as an industry we're undervalued, but I don't undervalue. I just want to say thank you all very much for everything that you all do. Okay. I shall now hand over to Richard. Richard, I'm just particularly going to stop printing half.
Morning everyone. That's me. It's great to be able to talk about road to recovery. And the image of a big dip and us coming out the other end is very true. At the last couple of all-team meetings we've talked about the challenges we face and the potential recovery, and now we're actually into a recovery, and that's fantastic for us to see. And we are cautiously optimistic, and I'm going to talk about all parts of the business, firstly about conference and training, and then we'll talk about spa and golf and hotel, etc. And whilst there remains a long way to go, we should have real optimism about where we find ourselves today. Clients are optimistic. When we look at what's going on in the economy, I know there's these things around carbon dioxide shortages and all that. Whoever thought that would be a thing? But the reality is, the most economic indicators show that we're in for a sharp recovery in the economy, and that's giving confidence to clients to want to book events. And the other thing that's been really important for us throughout the course of 2021, both for this year and for next year, is that we've been winning business, and I think that's critical. So some examples will be, from March to June next year, we're hosting a great big induction programme for the police, now, it's worth £600,000 split across a series of events, and that's fantastic. We're in advanced talks with BDO for a significant tranche of training for them for next year as well. But then we've also started to see success in sectors that we've never previously been that successful in. The pharmaceutical sector, we've hosted a series of events, or will be hosting events for AstraZeneca, Merck Serono and Roche over the course of the next few months. The AstraZeneca event did unfortunately cancel, although we did secure a good cancellation fee, but it shows that we're beginning to get inroads into some of those sort of sectors. And finally, with associations, crucial for our pipeline, these professional membership associations. And we've had some really great wins, both some for this year, but mainly for next year and the year beyond. Things like the Golf Course Managers Association and the Association of Student Residential Accommodation, which doesn't sound the most interesting of associations, but it's a massive event that we'll be hosting for them next year. And inquiry volumes are tracking really well. That's one of our key things. Our lifeblood is inquiries coming in for conference and training. And normally we set a target of £550,000 of inquiries a week that we need to get. That's in normal trading times, when the market is really good. And this year, year to date, we've been averaging £530,000 worth of inquiries a week, which has given us a really good base. But whilst the marketplace is positive, clients remain nervous. great example is the AstraZeneca booking, really good booking for us, booked relatively short lead for September, and then the client decided the last minute their health and safety team, they didn't want to run the event because of risks around COVID. Life Plus, one of our biggest clients, are still yet to return to us, and they normally host between 1 and 2 events a month. But a really great thing for us, we're already seeing the benefits of the what was formerly called the Oakley Suite, will be called the Salix Suite, and we're already beginning to fill that for next year, and Simon will talk much more about that. I like a good chart. What I wanted to do is talk about the recovery this year, but compare it to our last proper year of conference and training business, which was 2019. So the blue line is the business we did quarter by quarter in 2019. The orange line is the business that we've done this year. So quarter one, which is January to March, we did just over £1 million worth of business, £1.1 million worth of business in 2019 for conference and training. This year, we did just over 60 grand. Staggering, isn't it? And that was our worst quarter during the whole of the COVID crisis for conference and training business because of the government restrictions. And that really starkly demonstrates the impact on our business. In quarter two, again, in 2019, so this is April, May, June, we did just over 1.1 million in 2019. In 2021, just over 160 grand. Now, big improvement on quarter one, but still disastrous, really. And to put it in context, last week we did more at the Woodlands Event Centre in terms of revenue in 1 week than we did in the whole of quarter two. Quarter three begins to improve. So in 2019 we did over £1.5 million. This year, just over £800,000. So significantly going in the right direction, but still only 60% of what we've done in our previous normal trading year. But the reason it began to improve was government restrictions began to reduce, and we were able to get the Woodlands Event Centre open. And the Woodlands Event Centre was critical because it drives those large-scale events. And in August we had 4 or 5 really large events in that building, and of course we've seen that through into September. And then quarter four. Well, quarter four we did just over £1.3 million in 2019. Now the orange line for this year includes both contracted business and provisional business, so clients that haven't yet decided. But as you can see, it's tracking in the right direction. So month by month, quarter by quarter, we're seeing that improvement. So it is a positive finale. There's no two ways about it in terms of this year. The confidence began to return in the summer. But new client wins have been crucial for us. What we're seeing is that many clients that have been big clients of ours in the past are still not meeting. So people like Life Plus, although they will be returning before the end of the year, which is good news. But people like Care and Anglian Water, accounts that have been worth sort of £250,000 a year each, they've got no plans for this year, and they've got no plans for next year to meet. Because they've changed the way they structure their events, or they're still undecided, or they're still cautious about what they want to do. So new client wins have been crucial for us. But also we've seen a significant uplift in inquiries for events from September onwards, but it's very short lead. That's really good news. But to give you an example, in August, I think the figures we contracted 100 grand's worth of business for September in August. That's extraordinary to get that amount of business commit so short lead. And whilst that's good, self-evident that puts pressure on the operational delivery and the planning, because everything has to be done so much more quickly than normal for those sorts of size of events. Something else that we're seeing as well that I think is something we should be cautious about. Clients are really negotiating hard on contracts and the clauses within the contracts, not just about COVID, but about all things around liabilities and cancellation terms. And the other thing, and this plays to our strengths, is about safe events. That's here to stay. There's no two ways about that. There is a permanent shift in terms of how clients will look at risk assessments, how they'll want to plan those events. Luckily, because of all the work that we've done and being open and trading through, we're well set for that. But 2022, so we've got 2021 out of the way, 2022, how are we looking for that? Well, we're on track, and we're in a very positive position from a conference and training perspective. We've set ourselves some really ambitious targets for 22, and our plan is that it will be the best year for conference and training business that we've had. And that's not just some arbitrary target we've set ourselves, that's based on where we find ourselves today. So, we're aiming to start next year with already £3 million worth of conference and training business contracted. In context, in 2019 we went into the year with 1.8 million, and in 2020, which was at that point still unaffected by COVID, we went in with £2.3 million. So we're looking to really go in a long way ahead. And at the end of August, we've already got £1.7 million contracted. And I just checked the figures this morning. I think it's 1.96 million to be precise, where we are now. So we're nearly at £2 million worth of conference and training business contracted for next year. And that's massively ahead of where we were for 2020 and 2019. We've also got a lot of contracts that we've sent out to clients and we're awaiting their return. And we've already got provisional bookings of £3.3 million on for next year. Now, no guarantee all that 3.3 million is going to go ahead, but it just shows the level of demand we've got, and we're tracking a long way ahead of where we have done in previous years. Could have put another chart in. It's been horrible to show sales figures over the course of the last 18 months, so I'm going to use the opportunity to be able to show some more positive news. So quarter by quarter for 2022. So again, the blue line is where we were for 2019. The orange line is our target, or what we've provisionally set as our target for 2022, and then the grey line is what we've got contracted and what we are already holding provisionally. So as you can see, self-evidently, we're already tracking and we've set targets that are well ahead of where we were in 2019, and quarter by quarter, as you can see, that base of business is there. Never good to see the Director of Revenue with that when you're presenting sales figures.
Julie just said quarter 3 is going up then. We should have done this when you signed the budget off.
What you're seeing is a sales director shoots himself in the foot. Moving swiftly on. No, the key point is this: the base of business is good, and crucially for us, the first 6 months of the year, which is vital for us in terms of getting revenue into this business really quickly, is looking really good. So, I just want to talk about rocks, pebbles and sand. Something that we spend a lot of time talking about is what should our priorities be from a sales perspective? What are those critical things we need to focus our time on? And the best way to explain this is rocks, pebbles and sand. One of the problems we have in our business is that all of our products are perishable. You can only sell that meeting room on that day to one client. You can only sell that bedroom on that day to one person. So we've got to be really careful how we sell. So a perfect example, something like the Rosewood Suite, which is critical to us. If we sell that 18 months out and put a 50 delegate conference in there, that prevents us selling 12 months out a 200 delegate conference in there. So we've got to be really cautious about how we sell in. And it's one of these things that I spend a lot of time thinking about. And so I wanted to sort of take you through what are our rocks, what are our pebbles, and what are our sand. So rocks is crucial for us. These are events that are booked and contracted before the year commences, long-term stability generated from this type of business. So these are things like long-term clients, branded space clients like Firebrand, who we know we've got a 7-year agreement with. That's consistent revenue. So even though they've obviously been through a dip with us, and they'll be returning to normal hopefully over the course of the next 12, 18 months, it's guaranteed revenue. Our serviced offices, which we'll talk about in a bit, multi-year contracts for conference business, that's crucial. But as you can see here with the chart, you can only fit so many of those in, and you've got to get that right. And then what you want to fit around that are our pebbles. They're the conferences and training sessions that book in the year, for the year. So for clients like DHL, NCA, Control F, really important clients to us, and they then fit around the rocks. And then you're left with the sand. Now the sand is really important, and it comes back to Steve's example earlier, where 42% of events, 2.4% of revenue. Still, that 2% of revenue is still really important, but it's got to fit around the rocks and the pebbles. We've got to make sure we don't fill ourselves up with the sand first. And that's the whole point of it. Our focus has to be this order of attack. And that's something that sadly keeps me awake at night thinking about, is in terms of what do we do to make sure those rocks are right, what those pebbles are right, and then the right sort of sand to fit in around that. But talking of rocks, I want to talk about landing pad. Those who came to the team meeting, the last one, I think we talked about something called FlexiSpace, which was a brand we were taking to market. Well, unfortunately, somebody else had nicked that name, so we've had to have a rethink, and we've actually gone away and come back with something much stronger, which is landing pad. And what Landing Pad is, this is fundamental to the future of our business. It's bringing together some of our key pillars of our business, which are serviced offices, branded space, and co-working. So the first two have been an inherent part of our offer for a number of years. Co-working is a new piece. Serviced offices have been critical during the lockdown phase because it's been guaranteed revenue. Our occupancy level of our serviced offices is 96% as it currently stands, and that's been pretty consistent, even though we've had a lot of changes through the course of COVID. When people have left, we've sold that office to somebody else. And in terms of that, we want to grow our serviced office space that we've got. And we've got plans to do that through an extension to the Knowledge Centre at some point in the future. But that's critical. It's guaranteed revenue. People, if you look at some of our serviced office clients, they've got 5-year agreements with us. It guarantees revenue. Branded space. Steve referenced this. This is Firebrand. We need another Firebrand because it's guaranteed revenue. If you look at Firebrand this year and last year, their numbers have dropped, but we still had guaranteed and consistent revenue coming from them. But we need another branded space client to work alongside them. And then co-working. Co-working is a new product. Lyndon will talk a bit more about this when he talks about the hotel. But there's been this shift in working styles over the course of the last few years. So this predated COVID and was a national thing. There's been this huge expansion of flexible office space, and we're now entering that market where people can hire a desk, either on a daily basis, a few times each month, and it gives them flexibility. But for us, it's about a route in, because those people have been our next service office clients, they're potentially our conference and training clients in the future. But just moving away from conferencing and training side of the business, to touch on some other parts of the business. So why Spa? The great thing with the Spa, when we've been able to open it, it's filled. Even with the reduced capacities that we've had in place due to the restrictions. Room nights have increased from July and are comparable to 2019, the room nights that it generates. The capacity has now been increased further. I think it's around 45 per session, I think that's right, isn't it? Revenue in July and August was down on 2019, but will improve as we adjust our pricing and with that capacity going up. But a really good thing is the booking windows increase. People are booking further out because it's so busy, and that's good. It guarantees that income further out. So great news from a Spa perspective. In terms of transient bedrooms, what do I mean by transient bedrooms? Well, that's in essence any bedroom that's sold that's not linked to a conference and training program with us. And they're split into two camps: so non-corporate, which is leisure, and corporate, which is those people who are travelling on business, although they're not having an event with us. Non-corporate, May and June were behind 2019, but we've seen strong improvement from July onwards. July was only marginally behind 2019, and August was £100,000 ahead, which is fantastic. And September to December still pacing ahead of 2019. That transient pickup, that non-corporate leisure-based pickup is crucial for us. However, the flip side to that is corporate is still really poor. And that's a national thing, that's not a Wyboston Lakes thing. And that's something we're not that confident about how that's going to grow over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. But we have had some good wins. Film crews from Disney, CBS, Warner, shortly things from, I think it was England Athletics and Network Rail. But it's going to take a long time for that corporate travel to recover. And then finally, golf. Golf has continued to pick up, and it's been better than 2019 from July and August when it's reopened, and the rest of the year is looking positive too. And I think since we reopened our pay and play, I think we've had 2,000 more rounds of golf from a pay and play perspective compared to 2019, and it is expected to remain a consistent and stable performer. So in closing, started off with the road, finishing off with this. We are going in the right direction. All parts of the business are showing the growth we want to see, and that's fantastic. And I think as we head into 2022, our recovery will speed up even more. Thank you very much.
More sustainable notes.
You're making me feel guilty again.
I would never try and do that, Richard. All in all, before I start, I just want to say I feel really, really fortunate to work for a company that, given everything that's been thrown at us over the last 18 months, are still willing to invest and to support the long term of this business, and that put their trust in us and everything that we do every day. So I feel really fortunate to stand here with you all and tell you about the plans that we've got for hotel. So you might say, why are we refurbishing the hotel? Well, it's been 12 years since the public areas were refurbished in the hotel. In time, that's a long time. The decor's now dated, and the space isn't as well suited as it once was. 12 years ago, I'm sure it's perfect. You can imagine how much the business has changed over 12 years. 12 years ago, we didn't have a spa. We want to continue to invest in a resort, similar to what's happened at Woodlands and Willows, and really raise the overall quality of the resort. We want to increase the number of larger bookings. Typically, these larger bookings are more profitable for us than dealing with lots and lots of individual smaller bookings. So that's why we're refurbishing. And obviously it's quite important that we set out our aims. So what we want to achieve from this project, we want to reconfigure the hotel ground floor, create a space that's future fit, that's appealing and that's modern. So really protecting the business over the future years. We want to create an event space that can seat 200 for day conferences and private dinners. We want to create a dining space where spa guests can eat without leaving the spa. And we want to introduce co-working, as Richard mentioned, as a new business segment into this resort. So we came up with a bit of a plan, and this looks a little bit confusing, but just to give you a bit of an idea, this is the floor plan of the hotel, and just here, if you imagine, this is where you currently walk into the hotel. You go right the way down to the brasserie space, you've got that long corridor leading down to the brasserie space, and then we've got the space that we use for the event space, the fountains, the lake view, the Kingfisher. So all of the area in white is going to be part of this programme of refurbishment. So it's a really big refurbishment, it's the entire ground floor. And in addition to that ground floor, we've then got the space upstairs, which used to be, for those of you that have been here long enough, the old sales and marketing office. That space is also going to be refurbished, and that's the area where we'll be introducing co-working. In terms of the programme itself, we're going to be starting in just 8.5 weeks, so on the 22nd of November, and the programme will run through until mid-March. So it's nearly a 4-month programme, and just to reiterate, we're kicking off in 8.5 weeks. Pressure on anyone? If I'm not here in 9.5 weeks, it's not going well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and talk you through the areas, just break them down a little bit, and give you an idea of the works we'll be doing, and maybe a bit of an idea of why we're doing what we're doing. So just in front of you now, this is the reception area. And at the moment, you walk in through the main doors, and you've got the reception desk just here. It's like a big desk, it's quite dark, it's not very modern. And what we really want to create is a wildfire. Lies in one of our best assets, the views that we have of the outside space. And that great area that we've got down in the brasserie. So we'll be creating an additional lounge space in that little corridor. This will be great to be used as a resident lounge for 24-hour drinking, so any residents that want after-hour drinks, it'll give us that space. It'll give us a small area for any smaller guests wanting to congregate. It might support the co-working space additionally. And then you'll be coming through into a brasserie area. You can see we've got lots of these banquet seating, it's bench style, really flexible. So we can have lots of smaller tables of 2, we can have big tables of 20. Moving them all together, great for the team, great for the business, and really flexible. And just to give you a bit of context, this bar gets reduced by about 1/3. The biggest bar I've ever worked at. We have a big bar like this for the 100 guests, and then we do a Christmas party for 300 and have a bar this size. It's a little bit overspec. Built for conferencing for 400, so it's being massively reduced. And then we're going to knock through the back area and take over the cellar. So the cellar area will give us that increased capacity.
Sorry, Lyndon.
Hello.
Will the Chillax lounge go? Does that become part of it so that becomes
Don't jump ahead, Claire. For God's sake.
I think you're asking a question.
I'm going to hand over to Claire, who's going to talk you through Chillax. So, just a few images for you. You can see on the bottom right, we've got a sketch of these feature booths that'll be going in, just to give it that real wow factor, continuing with the theme from reception. New bar. We've got feature planting going above, sticking with our sustainability theme. We've got the images of the tables, and these will change. This is just to give you a bit of an idea, and a nice comfortable seating that we're looking to introduce. So I mentioned that we wanted to stay with that brasserie theme. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're still going to be a brasserie. We're not going to rebrand the Waterfront Hotel. The Waterfront Hotel will still be the Waterfront Hotel. The Y Spa will still be the Y Spa, but we are going to rebrand the brasserie. And we spent a lot of time with Louisa going over what this might look like, and we debated, and we argued, and we debated again, and we argued again, and we debated again, and we finally came up with something. So we really wanted to stick with the natural habitat, with the waterside theme that we've already got going. We wanted to come up with a name that was fit for the resort, that tied in with everything else we do. And so in the end we came back to How did it all begin? Where did it all start for us? And it all started with a great big pit outside that's now full of water, and we call it a lake. So we've now come up with the theme for the brasserie, and the brasserie will become the gravel pit, brasserie and bar. So as of beginning of January, that's what the that's what the current brasserie will be. It will become the gravel pit, brasserie and bar. As part of this gravel pit, we're going to have a key feature, and one of our key features is going to be our 25-mile promise. So on the menu, we're going to have lots of dishes that are created using ingredients from within 25 miles of the resort. So giving our guests the best taste of Cambridgeshire, the best taste of Bedfordshire, in a great location with great service. And just a bit of an idea as to what it's all going to look like as it gets pulled together. And now on to the event space. So by knocking through into the cellar that I mentioned earlier, we're freeing up the room that's named the Blue Room. It took us years to come up with that name. I'm not quite sure how it did. It's section 6 and 7 for those of you that work in the hotel. We've then got the fountains, and we've got the Lakeview space, and we've got the Kingfisher just here. So all of that space is being knocked together, creating one big event space that I mentioned earlier for those 200 delegates. So dealing with conferences, private dinners for up to 200, bringing in those larger bookings that will help support the hotel become more profitable. It'll really complement the hotel's offering, but what's important in this project, it won't compete with the Willows in any way, and it won't be competing with the Woodlands. There's no good us putting a great big rosewood onto the back of the hotel and go, we can do exactly what the Woodlands do. That wouldn't work. So not competing in any way with the Willows or the Woodlands. Bit of an idea as to some of the imagery, just some sketches of the bar, some furniture. And then again, as we've done with the brasserie, we're going to rebrand the function space, we're going to rename them, we're going to stick with the nature theme. The total area will be called the Lakeview Suite, clues in the title, has a view of the lake. Again, took us a long time to come up with that one. And then we're going to rename the individual rooms, when they're used individually, as 3 separate spaces: the Heron, the Mallard and the Sandpiper. And we'll also have a room called the Dragonfly, which I'll come on to in just a moment. So on to co-working. This new thing called co-working, this is something we've been talking about for a few years. We were talking about it before the pandemic. As a business, we were talking about it before the pandemic. There were already companies doing it as a business purely before the pandemic, and we're now going into this segment. As Richard mentioned, we think this co-working will really support some of our other segments. It'll support our conference and training, it'll support our serviced office, and it will also bring in additional revenue through secondary spend in food and beverage, golf, spa, so guests coming and utilising some of the other areas we have on the resort. So co-working, as Richard said, it's where people rent a desk on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, where they have that flexibility to come to an office type environment and really work in a focused space. So just to go through the plans, just to the right of the screen is the Dragonfly, and that area, Claire, to your point, is what used to be your chill lounge. I'm sorry you no longer have a chill lounge, but we do have some plans to move things around in the spa. So we'll have a downstairs meeting room which will seat 14 people. And then onto the upstairs, which is the old meetings and event space, marketing and sales space, we'll have co-working, which will have a space for up to 32 people to work out of it. There'll be some flexible options in there where people do just rent a desk, they turn up and they go to any desk that's free. And there'll be some fixed desks, so people that physically rent a particular desk in that space every day, and they can turn up to as many times as their membership allow. To give you a bit of an idea as to what it will look like, this is our co-working. So some private booths where people just want to focus, get their head down and work on their own. There'll be lots of collaborative space, as you can see here, where people can join together, work together. There'll be individual, more private booths, smaller booths for a couple of guests. And again, some nice comfortable areas where guests can just get away from the daily work. And the final piece of the jigsaw is the outside space. I said earlier we want to make the most of one of our best features on this resort, the outdoor space that we have. We've got great views of the lake, great views of the golf course, and so what we're going to do is introduce dedicated space for the brasserie, but also some dedicated space for the events. And to give you an idea of what that will look like, to make the most of our outdoor space, revamping the entire jetty, sticking with that sustainability theme, covering all the brickwork with wood, so that'll all be reclad in a wooden finish, introducing plants into the outside, new furniture and something that we've never had here in my time, which is some covering outside. At the moment, if it's particularly hot, if it's drizzly, people can't sit outside because there's no covered space. Where previously we've used parasols, they blow away, they snap in half, they nearly kill people. So we've decided not to go with parasols, but to go with this awning that will look a little bit like this to cover off the outside space. So I just want to recap on what I said at the beginning. We set out our aims, which was to reconfigure the hotel ground floor, creating a space that's fit for future years, modern and appealing. And I think we'll do that. To create an event space that can seat up to 200 for day conferencing and private dinners. To have a dining space where spa guests can eat without leaving the spa. And finally, to introduce co-working as a new business segment into the resort. And I feel really, really confident that with everything that we've got planned, we can achieve that, and we will achieve that. And we will start that project in just 8.5 weeks. And I shall hand you over to Simon.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to echo Lyndon's points as well. What a great opportunity to stand up here and talk about more refurbishments within our business and talk about upgrading our facilities. I think for those of you that have had the opportunity to experience the Willows Training Centre to what it is today, will know what a difference it was from where we used to be. And the plan always was to move the Oakley into that era as well, but as most of you lived through the last 18 months know, uncertainty and changes happen so quickly. So the plan was always to do the Oakley this year. And it was slowly changed and postponed due to the fact that business recovery was changed. We were expecting to open well before March and April, and as Richard's sales figures showed, we never got that major recovery that we were hoping for. So we moved the project into 2022. And probably around June time, it was apparent that everything was opening up, business was flying back in. Richard and his team were getting some great inquiries. We were getting contacts from the Police Now booking, which Richard's talked about, and they're going to take over the whole of the Oakley for these lengthy periods of time. And what we didn't want to have is a facility that was a little bit outdated compared to the rest of our facilities, and it limits the ability for us to sell that property and what rates we can go into. But it also presented a difficult situation, because when were we going to refurbish it? When were we going to bring it up to standard? If we lift it till 2022, does that limit our ability to sell that space? And then will we be losing any potential business we were going to get into there? Any future business that was coming in was going into dated rooms, and then the future knock-on effect of that. So meetings came together and phone calls came together, and we'd already done all the plans, so we were well ahead in that step, in the sense of, look, we know what we want to do. There were some brief changes, but I do remember sitting on a virtual call, and we went through this with GPF and everybody else, and then the time frames were fitted in, and Christine came up with when we could fit it all in. And I do remember the faces of the GPF workers when we said, oh, we can do it now, but you've got 6 weeks. And 6 weeks to decorate, rip out air conditioning, fit it with new stuff, and then without fail, what we didn't do when we did this building was knock any walls down, and I think Steve got a little bit upset about that, so we wanted to knock some walls down in here. For great reason. We had a lot of syndicate rooms in the Oakley suite, and one of the key features was we underutilised them. We only used the 1% of our whole meeting space over there, so it made a lot more sense to put some bigger space in there and future-proof it. So what we've done is we've got 8 meeting rooms over there now, and these 2 additional ones, once we get open and once we get cleaned up, we'll get over there and we'll have one of these meetings in there, and we'll put some of the other bits we're going to talk about into the Oakley suite so you can see that space. But we can put another 240 cabaret meeting rooms into that space, which is great for us, because that's that real sweet spot for business when we can get clients in. And again, we've tried to build it and future-proof it, because in the future we've talked about long-term contracts. This space is great, it's out of the way, it's on its own, it's private, you can have it all to yourself. And I think the Oakley suite, or the Salek Suite, and just so you know why it's called the Salek Suite, the Salek Suite is a collective word for a collection of willow, willow wood, and as you know, this is the Willow Suite, the Willows Training Centre. We named our F&B area the Cricket, because it's made from willow. All the meeting rooms are a type of willow, and all the meeting rooms in here will also be a type of willow. So to carry that theme through, that's why it's called the Salek Suite. And yeah, and so it's There is certain areas that have been thought through long term. We've considered the fact that, okay, we future-proof this just in case we get any long-term contracts that could potentially go into that space. So in addition to changing the size of those rooms and bits and pieces, we'll also be introducing all of the other features that work so well in this building. So we'll be carrying through the pit stop, Paddy and Scott's theme into those areas. We'll be carrying through all the meeting rooms, so the AV, the coloured feature walls, and for us that helps us with the sizing when we're doing show rounds. One of the other changes we'll also be putting in is, and I'm showing this picture because we'll be putting the coloured chairs in. The chairs you sat in here today, which we use in the main building, we got those about 4 or 5 years ago, and they're from a very good quality manufacturer called Burgess that we use for all of our furniture when it comes to chairs. And within the new building, we had all of the old Woodlands furniture, so we'll be replacing that out with the new stuff that we've got up at the Woodlands, so it'll be similar to that, and branding in the colours, so it just brings that theme through. We'll be putting the squiggle glass in, features and bits and pieces, the central, back to keeping it simple as well. Back in the day we used to set all the tables with pads and pens and bottles of water. Again, that'll be coming out, and you'll have the central section for pads and pens, bloody hell. Then there'll be water stations dotted around so people can help themselves. So again, just to keep it simple. And not forgetting all the nice features that we've put into this building, the colouring in walls, the quirky stainings on the walls, and just all of that really nice stuff when you go in. But as I was saying at the top, the Oakley Suite kind of gets forgotten, or the Salix Suite kind of gets forgotten, but just to put it into size perspective, the Willows Training Centre has 800 square metres of training space, okay, including this room. The Salix Suite has 700, so it's not a million miles off being par. If you take out the rosewood in the Woodlands, the Salix Suite's actually bigger for meeting room space. So yeah, it's one of those spaces that kind of gets forgotten. It's over there, we don't worry too much about it, but from our perspective it's such a valuable space to the whole of Wyboston Lakes and the business that we run here. So yeah, so very excited about that one. And just to point out, it's actually already going on. So if you haven't noticed the big skip outside when you walk out, we're well underway. We've only got 2 weeks left now. We're a week and a half until it'll be completely finished. There's a few last minute bits coming in, as you'd expect at the moment, a few delays on shipments and arrivals, but in the whole, we'll have clients in there from the 1st of October. So it's been a 6-week or 7-week project, as we managed to find a few extra weeks here and there, but it's worked in the whole really, really well. But what it does is it collectively brings everything together. For those of you that have been over here over 5 years, and I can see a few of the chefs, you may remember the old kitchen. Well, we did that in 2017, and I think that was a grateful piece of work that was done. Then we upgraded the 75 bedrooms down here, so now we've got 150 bedrooms within our ground floor space that that fill out everything, and it's all modernised. The refurbishment last year of the main building and the training rooms. Now the Salix Suite is coming up to completion, and in the future we will continue our 500 block. I think that goes back to the naming, great names used. We're really thought through how we get the 500 block. But yeah, that will be something we'll put into the future now and look to finish off. But collectively, that will bring the Willows Training Centre up to where it should be. And I think it's a great, where we see the benefit is that future-proofing. We've continued to future-proof. We've continued to get this business ready to go forward when it opens. As Steve mentioned at the top, being bold but not reckless. I think we have been really bold, and that's paying off now. And some of the things that Richard's presented are really showing that the decisions that were made have put this business in great position, ready to go. And those of you that have seen it, as we mentioned last week, we did more revenue at the Woodlands Event Centre last week than we did in the whole of Q2 for this year. That just shows we've been ready, we've been waiting, and everything we've done has got us in that position ready to go. So mine was short but sweet, but I shall hand over to Catherine.
Try not break across my moving now, because I need the space. So I'm being unsustainable as well, sorry, apologies for starters with that. Okay, so all about the people, obviously, that's what I talk about all the time, it's all about the people. So, first thing I'm going to talk about is the perception battle we have at the moment. As Steve said, recruitment is a massive thing for us at the moment, and I don't think there's one person in this room who hasn't been touched by the hardness of what we're going through at the moment, of It's amazing the business is coming back as quickly and as well and as strong as it is, but we are so short in virtually every area of the business from team members, and we are trying everything. Believe me, we're trying everything to get, but it's not just us. So it is a nationwide thing. So I just wanted to go through some points about, in general, the perception, what we're up against and where we're at. But before I do that, you'll probably all know that actually in the UK at the moment there's over 1 million vacancies for jobs. So that says a massive amount of vacancies throughout the whole of the UK. In hospitality, in August, it was recorded that 180,000 jobs were in the UK were in hospitality. So you can see what we're up against in trying to get people to come and work here. So I just wanted to cover some of the perceptions that we have. This isn't a perception, this is a fact. That by the end of 2020, 1 million employable people had left the UK. Whether that was because of Brexit, we don't know what impact that actually had because it mixed with COVID. So whether they left because of Brexit specifically or whether they left because of COVID and people returned to home countries, we don't know. But that's an awful amount of people who've left the country who were previously employed. A survey that was carried out by Caterer.com and UK Hospitality, the one that I was referring to in August, 52% of people believe there's a poor perception about working in hospitality in the country as a whole. In Europe, if you say, I'm going to be a waiter, it's a career move. In the UK, you're going to be a waiter. It's the perception of what it's like. So we do have that massive great big battle. It's not something that's promoted in careers at schools. 50% of people believe that hospitality wages are low. 17% of people consider hospitality jobs to be temporary before they move into another profession. And the amount of people that you employ, I can see a few smirks around the room as we say it, the amount of people that come, I'm just coming here for a summer job, or I'm just coming here temporary whilst I go to university. Some say and realise it's an amazing industry to work in, but a lot of people just see it as a stopgap, it's not a career. And that's a massive perception battle that we have to change. Okay, so the reality, what do we know? Hospitality roles, that's everybody here, no matter what you do, are actually recognised as having a great fun and social element compared to a lot of jobs. Nothing against the accounts people in the room, obviously. But there are people, the perceptions of it. So you can, working in hospitality, you have a massive different roles that you can do. I'm sorry, ladies.
Very offended.
But there are, I don't mean it in a mean way, but there are industries where you go to work and you work in an office 9 to 5. Our ladies don't, obviously. And you go and work in an office 9 to 5 and you are in that room all day, every day doing a job. In our industry, you can do whatever you want to do. You can go and work wherever you want to do. I know for a fact that Tony's accounts. Including accounts, yes. You can work through different areas, but there are so much roles that you can do, and it's got a much better social element than a lot of other businesses out there. Despite the poor perception, 90% of hospitality employers actually pay above the national living wage, despite the fact that everyone says, oh, it's a low pay, you don't get paid for what you do. 50% of hospitality employers have increased their pay and benefits package recently to try and attract new people into the industry. And with being a 24/7 business, we actually are able to give a better, flexible work-life balance than a lot of other industries out there as well, because you can have time off during the week, you can have time off at weekends, you can work daytimes, you can work evenings. So a real flexible shift where a lot of industries aren't actually able to provide that. Okay, so what's industry doing about it? So there are several bodies that we work with and we're members of, from UK Hospitality, People First, IAC, the HBA, lots of different things, and lots of different people are trying to get more credibility to the industry out there for those who don't know it. So UK Hospitality, who we are a member of, they are working with the government currently to try and get hospitality and tourism back on the agenda in schools, because it's not even in there. It's not even talked about as a career for people to go into. It's not something that is there for people. The amount of colleges that have dropped both hospitality and beauty over the past few years, colleges have dropped them, they're not getting funding anymore, so people can't even go because there's not places available. So there's a massive block for us. So UK Hospitality are working with that. They're also working with the government on looking at some of the immigration rules, where that changed with Brexit. We have lost so many people that are employable to us. So that's something that UK Hospitality are working with. The Hoteliers Charter is a charter that we signed last year, and it's very similar to the People First Hospitality Commitment, which we signed and we told you about back in 2019. And both of those commitments are industries accreditations to say we are an accredited employer and we are doing everything that we can to make a better work environment for our team members, to make sure everybody's treated fairly, to make sure we do all the good stuff. We look after your well-being, we look after your physical well-being, as well as your mental, and we look after people at work in general, and we want to make sure people have a good work-life balance. So I think that's what industry is doing across the board, to try and make sure everything is better for everyone. But there's also stuff that we're doing, because obviously it wouldn't be right if we just left it up to everybody else. We need to do things for ourselves as well to make ourselves seem to be better. So one of the first things we've been doing is we've reviewed our recruitment, get my words out. We've spent some time with marketing, looking at what we can do. We've done stuff ourselves. We've tried lots of different avenues, and as I said, we are doing everything we can to try and get out there. So we've reviewed some of our recruitment strategies. We'll be working with a lot more local social media job boards and Facebook groups, and I know it's great when we put something up, loads of people have been sharing it in some of the local Facebook groups as well, so thank you very much. That really does help. Every reshare really does help. And we've been working with marketing on something, coming up with a bit more young wording in some of it. I don't know the best way to say, probably for younger people. So we're attracting, where we're trying to do adverts recently to attract food and beverage team members in, it's the wording that would attract them more than we might not have used in the past. Paige is much better at that. She's got 20 years younger than me, so she's good on that. We've carried out a local and national pay survey, going back to where people's perception of hospitality is a really low paid business. We don't pay really low paid money. We have always paid the national living wage to everybody over 18, despite the fact that it's not required. So we've always been very competitive, and we wanted to make sure that we were recruiting the right people, retaining the right people, paying people what they were worth, and making sure we're staying competitive and reviewing everything within that. So we have carried out, Paige spent quite a lot of time doing both the national and local surveys of who all our competitors are, and especially local as well, because we employ so many people from this very local area. We need to make sure we're the best employer here. So we have done that. We've reviewed some of our pay rates within the business, and some of you would have already been informed if your pay rates have changed, because they have across a lot of different roles within the business, where we are able to now pay what we believe you're all worth. Not saying you weren't worth what being paid before, but we've been able to up that so that we can retain people within the business as well as recruit people in. We're making team member benefits available from day one. All team member benefits used to be available to people once they'd completed their probation period. So now they will be available to everybody from day one, from when they start. We've reviewed our Recommend a Friend scheme. So we actually only reviewed this in 2019, about October time, and announced to everybody then that we were increasing the payment from £150 to £300. If you recommend somebody, you got £150 once they've been here 3 months, and then the other £150 after 6 months. We are now paying the £300 to the person who recommended the individual after 3 months. So it will be from the start. So we're changing that to encourage people to recommend people to the industry. We're doing a complete review of internal learning and development. We do a lot of e-learning, we know that. You've all done your e-learning over the past year whilst you haven't been here, but we want to make sure that we carry that on, but also be able to provide a better training experience rather than sitting maybe in a classroom for half a day to do a training course. We're doing lots of short, sharp training bites, and I know Sophia has been working really closely with the GMs on making some of this training really accessible within all areas of the business, so we don't have to take people out of their work environment. We will still have to for some things, but they can do their training within the environment. And a new thing we've got coming in for 2022, where we want to encourage people again to stay within the business and grow within the business, we're going to be introducing food and beverage and chefs academies, because especially with chefs, it's been probably at least 10 years there's been a shortage of chefs within the UK, so we want to grow our own and put these academies in place. So it's something that Lyndon's heading up across the business, so he'll at some point, I'm sure, be sharing more details of that in the future. So there's some of the things that we're doing before to support everyone. But one thing we do know is everything we have been doing over the past years, you think that we're world class. And that's a really important thing for us, is that as an employer we are still classed as world class. And we're classed as world class because of all of you. You do the surveys we ask you to do for best companies, and you tell us what you think of us. And it was a really special honour this year that we got to position 45 in best companies top 100, and we were able to share that with you on the day, because we did live streaming in several areas throughout all the venues that were open, because there was no big event this year. So that was great. So some of the things that have made us world class is that over this past 18 months, you believe you're very proud to work for the business. There was a lot of that coming through about how proud you were to work for the business, how despite the fact that we were going through a pandemic, we also had to make redundancies. People felt their future within the business was still being considered. So yes, we had to make redundancies, which was horrific for everybody who got made redundant, for anybody who was involved in the process, and also for the people who stayed, because that's always quite difficult as well. So there was always that consideration of, you've thought of us and our careers, our development. Also over the past 18 months we were trying everything that you believe we managed to keep everybody engaged with what we were doing. We were looking after people's well-being. We had Mario and Luigi in the pizza making kitchen on events. As you saw earlier, you can see the two of them smirking down here now. We had lots of different activities that we were trying to keep everybody going. So it was really important for us that you said all these amazing stuff about what we're doing. And one of the biggest things that we want to do is make sure that we carry that on. We want to make sure that we keep doing everything that we've been doing over the past year. So just a selection of photographs of what we did. What are you two giggling at again? Because you know you're up there. So we are going to be carrying on with quite a lot of this stuff. We think it's really important that the engagement that we've been doing has been great for people. We're going to be carrying on some of the quiz nights. We're going to be carrying on lots of different things. And this is in addition to what we do on a day-to-day as within the team. So some of the things we're going to be doing, we're going to be introducing a spring party. We're not 100% sure what this is going to look like, but at the moment the thoughts are certainly for next year is that Simon's been speaking to Malcolm down at Rye Leisure, and we'll work with them on an event where we'll do a fun day and a barbecue. So we'll get everybody involved in that, so who can come along. So that was our first event of the year. The plan is that we will do 4 main events throughout the year. The second one will be summer party festival. Anyone who came to the summer party this year knows it was, despite the fact that for the last few days before it we were like, we're going to get rained off, there was storms threatening. Even on the morning we were still thinking we were going to get rained off. We had a little bit of drizzle while setting up, and we were very, very lucky. And everyone who came along had a great day. It was really brilliant. We had people who were coming along. I think that one of the guys in maintenance who'd worked in the morning came in the afternoon, brought his son along, and his son was like trying to give all the stall holders money when he hasn't. It was like, no, it's all for free. So it was really brilliant. We were able to put on an event to say thank you to everybody. So that's something we really want to carry on with as well. The quiz night has been very popular for those of you who've joined in, hosted by our very own Mr. McMahon again. We will be doing this in the autumn, so probably October time. We'll be thinking about doing this every year. It will be on site in a room. It won't be online moving forwards. And because Paige has nagged us all year because we haven't done a bingo night, because she's a bingo queen apparently, we're going to be interspersing the quiz rounds with some bingo as well, which is always a bit of a laugh as well. So that's what we'll be doing live and in person in the autumn, is a quiz bingo night. Let's have something like that as well. And then we will carry on with our Christmas party that we do every year. So that is something that obviously we weren't able to do last year because I think we were actually in lockdown by Christmas last year, so obviously that's something not going to be able to do. But these are our things that we're going to be doing that are bigger and better than ever have been before. And it's all stuff, and again, reiterate what Lyndon and Simon had said. I've done the sustainability bit again now after what they've said about how lucky we are to work for a company that are going to carry on doing these things as we come out of the pandemic. It's really important for us that we're able to do this to keep our team engaged and keep everybody happy and working where we are. So we're going to carry on with things happening throughout 2022. There'll be some monthly surprises and Fit for Summer campaign, mini golf, and lots more happening as well. So that's what we've got coming up. So our people make our business. It's very important, isn't it? Our customers are people, and all of you as our team are our people. And it's really important that we are doing everything we can for you. So we've been making some adjustments. As you know, Steve went through earlier on and talked about our purpose and values and how important that is. Simon's going to be joining on stage in a minute to talk about some of the very exciting stuff we've got coming up as well. But everything we're doing, we're trying to link back to our purpose and values and about how important that is, because they are made from those focus groups that we started back in October, November 2019, where so many people across the resort were involved in making those values and what they were going to be. For those of you who are on Facebook and Wybo Hub, you will have seen this tree in several places now, as we've changed it to our people team logo. So we changed from HR earlier in the year to the people team, and this is our logo, and there is a reason why we've chosen that. So I just want to explain to you where it came from. Not only do we think it's pretty and colourful, and obviously that's very important to the people team, pretty and colourful. If any of you ever go up to Woodlands into the management office that Vicky and Sophia share, you will have also seen, and some of you in the room might have your fingerprints on, they've got a canvas on the wall that is a tree. One of the venues, progress and prospects, or all team meetings, I can't remember what they were called then, when people who came along, we had lots of paint and they put their fingerprints on to be the leaves. The analogy of where the tree comes from now is the roots, which you can't see because they're underground, and the trunk of the tree are our solid core business. This business has been here for 30 plus years. It's a very solid business, and we're very, very lucky how long we've been here and where we're coming from. So the tree trunk is the analogy. It's our core business, where we're coming from. The branches are coming from all our separate strands of the business, whether it be the venues, the hotel, the spa, the golf club. It's all the different areas of the business. And all the hands represent all of our team members that make that tree up to make sure that we're all together. So that's where the people tree comes from, and it links in with our values. So that will be our people team logo moving forwards. We're going to be updating things over the coming months. So our team handbook, which will be changing. We'll be updating the newsletter. We'll be updating Wyboston Hub, all to reflect all our culture and values throughout the business. And some of the very exciting other changes we've got coming up are things that Simon is going to talk to you about now. He's going to come back up, and I'm going to stay here because I'm going to give it a side kick at the end. So yes, we've got lots of other exciting stuff that Simon's going to talk you through as a business.
Cool. Yeah, I'll talk about just the eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed we won't be having an event called the Back Off 2020. Okay. We had a very successful bake-off, which I think you won, didn't you, Cheryl? Yeah, so Cheryl's our 2021.
And I tasted
So we'll be having the bake-off. Not on Oasis event. So we'll be having that next year. But yeah, I want to talk to you about a couple more events. We've come up with this great plan for next year, where we've had some great successful events. We're going to throw some more in. We're going to be dropping bits in throughout the year because we think it's really key. But a couple that we're kind of we've been wanting to get off the floor for a few years now, but some things happened, so we changed and modified them and come up with some better ways of doing them. But back in 2020, in the first few months of 2020, for those of you in the two venues here, we did a thank you event, okay? And what the focus was going back to the fact that we work in a business that we do focus a lot of the time on the negativity, and it's not that it's in order for us to get better. We know that. We take the comments, we review them, and we try and get better about them. But what we very rarely do is look at the amazing comments we receive. So what we're going to be introducing is our thank you events. They'll take place every 2 months, okay? They'll be site-wide, and what it'll be is an opportunity if you're on shift or if you want to come in a little bit like these are today. You come in quite relaxed, quite entertaining. They'll be fun. So I don't know if you can call.
I'll leave that to Catherine.
They'll be like that. They'll be fun. We'll be there to recognise the feedback from the guests. Anything that's been posted online that's got your name attached to it, we'll talk about it. You get certificates, but they'll be a little bit quirky. There'll be team challenges. There'll be departmental challenges that will run at those events that will run for the rest of the year. There'll be management shout-outs, so if you've got any of you managers who are in the room that just want to post a comment, pass on a comment about someone that's helped out your team, that's done an amazing job in your team, that's kind of hidden away that we don't see all the time, we'd like to know about them. We'll also be reviewing long service awards at those events every 2 months, and we'll also be going through anything where we've had comments from events or comments that are sometimes sent out on email. We sometimes get feedback from guests, we sometimes get feedback from events, and it comes out on an email, and then it gets forwarded to all those people with an email. Not everyone's got an email, and that always gets filtered down. So yeah, we'll be sharing all those comments as well. So we'll be really making a point of just saying, look, we do an amazing job, let's talk about it, let's celebrate it. And you might see there we'll be doing the awesome nominees and winners. So what are they? Well, that comes off our Awesome Awards. And where did Awesome Awards come from? A few years ago we watched a video, and there was a small little child on this video, and he just points out at the end, he says, you should tell someone they're awesome today. So that's kind of where the concept grew from. We've kind of adopted it into the venues, we kind of try and encourage it as much as we can. So that's where our Awesome Awards come from. Our Awesome Awards will be our annual event. Be a little bit like Employee of the Month if you've worked at other places, but these won't be monthly, these will be every 2 months. And what will happen is within your departments, whenever you have your team meeting within that 2-month period, you will have these little comment cards that will be dotted around. They'll be in staff rooms, they'll be given to your management teams. You can fill them out on your own, you can fill them out as a team, but what you'll be doing is nominating someone who's done an amazing job or who's awesome. The department they work in, the reason why they've come over and helped you, they've stayed late, they've picked up a passport and taken it to a guest who's got stuck at the airport and left it in their safe. Whatever the story is, we'd like to know it. And if you can, pick up one of the cards that resembles the value that they're reflecting within that comment, and we'd like you to fill those out. And within your department, you'll then nominate 2 people, a front of house person and a back of house person. And what we'll do is we will display what teams fall into what categories, so you don't have to work that out yourself. We'll give you that information. And then those forms will come to the SMT. Within the SMT meeting, we'll go through and we'll discuss them, we'll discuss the comments, and we will then choose 2 people who will become, for that period, our front of house and back of house awesome award winner for that period. Okay? Over the course of the year, we'll build up to 6 from front of house, 6 from back of house, and then there'll be an annual awards ceremony which will take place in 2023, and it will be, black tie, or the glitz, or the glamour, everything you can think of that we can throw on and host for you, and that will be done at the end of the year. So you can come along if you're nominated, along with your line manager, and hopefully you'll be up there to win the annual Awesome Award, which will be presented on the evening. So those are 2 things that we're rolling out next year that we'd be really looking forward to doing, but that we're going to get fully behind and just celebrate everything we do at Wyboston makes us a success.
And in addition to those, I know Simon said about the front of house and back of house awards, there will be other awards that we'll be putting in, that some serious and sensible one, but seeing as Simon's got a hand in some of this with Lyndon, there will be some quirky awards as well.
So serious.
So not so serious ones. So we'll be having some random ones in there as well, but it's something that is really important to us, is that recognition. Recognition is so key, and some people get recognition quite often, but there's a lot of people who do jobs that it doesn't get seen what they do, and that's why we want everybody to have the opportunity to have their say. These cards will be around, they'll be in the team lounges, so you can pick one up if somebody's filled one in, not to fill them all in for your mates. They're nice, they're all right, because we'll be checking them out. But it's a really key thing, so and we're really excited about it, because it's something that certainly Steve and I have talked about it since probably before I got here, about that we wanted to do this, but the timing hasn't been right, and we had hoped it would have been before now, but obviously, as you know, something got in the way. So, and can you click on for me? Fabulous. So, one of the things that we did say at, Simon's just said, is at those events there will be long service awards, and at the moment, or pre-pandemic, long service awards were just given to people who were in their departments. It might have been presented to them. We didn't make a big song and dance about it, and we think it's a really important thing to recognise those long service awards. So they will be being presented at those thank you gatherings moving forwards, but over the past 18 months we haven't presented any of those long service awards, mainly because the first one that came up was actually back in May last year, which was Jane Manning, who's not in here today, but Janice is, and it was her 25 years back in May, and she was working, she worked all the way through because she looks after the service offices, but we knew that Janice would have wanted to be there to present her long service award, so we weren't going to do it without her. And gradually, over the months as went past, and this then carried on, we never got round to celebrating all of those. So these are the people who have missed out in the past 18 months of having those long service awards, so we wanted to make sure all their names were up in lights. And Chelsea, you were on that list as well, but I didn't think you were going to be here today. So Chelsea was also on that list.
Just using that for a row, ain't she? Killing it tonight.
I haven't picked up Christine today, so
It's been deleted from the history of the government. I first apologise to her.
So yeah, so we've had quite a few 10 years in there. Steve's here today, congratulations. Jane Manning, as I said, was 25 years, and Lee Folbig has actually just passed 30 years in the autumn last year as well. So those people who missed out on those long service awards, we will be speaking to their HODs. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do Chelsea's, who's going to present yours. But the payments that were due will all be hitting pay this month. So when you get your pay slip, any of you who are in there, Steve, and Mary, you've already had your pay slip because you got yours last week. So those payments will be being made this month to these team members. So it's amazing that we've got all these fantastic people who've done 10, 15, 20, 25 and a 30 years service. So as I said, this is something we want to celebrate overall, and as of next year, these will be happening at those thank you events as well.
Can we just do a...
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got another question then, so we're going to let them ask. So, just before we does anyone get any questions for me or any of my colleagues that are too scared to stand back on the stage?
Firstly, shout out to the Star Girls for their award for Muddy Stilettos.
Yeah.
Talking about long service, those of us that took redundancy because of COVID and have come back, how does that work with us? Do we get reset from now, or can we get included for years we did previous?
I should let Catherine answer that question. I tell you why, we were really, really keen that we said anyone we let go that came back, we said we reinstated their service up to 2 years, because what we didn't want was for you to come back in your first 2 years of employment, you classed as a legal probation. Might not be probation with us, but it'd be legal terms. We said that's unfair, people come back. So we covered that off. I'm not sure if Catherine's considered this next bit, but I'm sure she will if she has.
Yeah, as far as we're concerned, because you've got that length of service back over those 2 years, is we would start it from that point onwards. We haven't looked at everybody who would be for next year who we've re-employed, so we've pulled off all the people of their length of service for next year already, so we know who we've got. What we'll do is go back and look at those people who we've re-employed as well, because I'll be honest, I hadn't thought of it. I'm not going to lie and said, yeah, it's all under control. I hadn't thought on it, so thank you for raising that, and Paige and I will have a look at the people who've come back, because there are a few, so we can look at that and let you know.
Anyone get any other questions?
I was going back to the hotel refurbishment. Does that mean there's a closure?
So we're closing for a couple of weeks over Christmas, but from 22nd of November, when the spa and the brasserie closes, we'll still be selling bedrooms, and we're using what's currently Fountains as a restaurant to get us through that period. So off that first 8-week period when that's off, we're only physically closed for 2.5 weeks, London? 2.5, 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Yeah. So just over the absolute depths of Christmas. Yeah, that's just it.
Spa will close.
Yes, oh yeah, but sorry, yeah, but the spa is closed from 22nd of November through until
13th, 14th.
14th of January. So spa's got a longer period because the work's quite intrusive into that cafe area. Yeah. Any other questions? No? That's got all the questions. Come on, going once, going twice. Okay, you've had your chance. Right, thank you all very much. I know that ran on a little bit, but really appreciate you listening. Take care. Bye.